Welcome back to Husker Talk with Tommy Frazier. And if the option's going to work, as Tommy was talking, you got to have your receivers blocking. We know they can catch some passes too, but what was your impressions of the blocking from the receiving corps?
I thought it was suspect. I didn't think they went out and blocked the way they're supposed to block. You know, once again, you got a group of young guys there with Brandon Kennedy, who's back there, but those guys have never been asked to block the way they asked to be blocked on Saturday, and it's just going to take time. You know, I don't know if here's what I do know, that if Ron Brown was coaching those guys, they would have been blocking. You know, so I know that he's going to give some input to the wide receiver coach and to show him different drills that how he can get those guys to block him. But they're going to be very important in this running game this year, and so they're going to have to man up and go out and block somebody.
Because on the big plays, if they do come from the option game, that second level has to be blocked by the receivers.
You have to block because, you know, you tell the running back you got to make one guy miss, but you can't make three guys miss. It's going to be tough. You know, so the receivers have to do their job and have to stay on their blocks for a long time because the option is a slow developing play. You know, so once they learn how to do that, that's also going to help the option. But it's not only the option, they got to learn how to block in the run game. You know, because there's a lot of times to where those guys is one block away and the guy blocks them and he lets the guy off. You got to stay on that guy.
You mentioned Ron Brown. Coach Ron Brown is still with Nebraska, but he is the running backs coach.
Right.
The new receivers coach is Rich Fisher, who had some experience at Colorado and coached some in Texas. So I'm sure he'll be open to learning, but it's not necessarily the coach as much as it's a different level of physicality that they're asking in this offense.
I think it's a combination of both, though. I think it's the coach out there teaching them the right technique of how to step, where the angles, how to protect the angle, but it also takes. But once you teach them that, now you got to have those kids translated from the practice to the field, and that's when it's the kids' responsibility to make sure that they know what they're doing. You know, so it's a combination of both. You know, I still remember Coach Brown was coaching those guys. You know, you heard him every day. We're going to do this. We're going to be tougher. We're going to be the most physical. We might not be the biggest, might not be the tallest, but we're going to be the toughest. And it showed in the way those guys played. You know, those guys took pride in that blocking, and I think that's what a good blocking receivers do. They take pride in it. They're not so much worried about, well, they're not throwing the ball to me, so I'm just going to take this play off. No, those guys block. Because if they block, they got the ball in the passing game.
When you played, what were some of the better blockers in Nebraska?
Oh, Reggie Ball was a decent blocker. John Vedro was the best blocker we've had there since when I played. You go back to Cluster Johnson was a good blocker. Corey Dixon, as a small guy, was a very good blocker. So those four guys I just called off to where those are the smallest guys on the team. Abdul Muhammad was another good blocker. And they were the smallest guys on the team, but they also were the most physical guy. And they took blocking as a pride thing.
And if we could go to a video right now, we'd go back to Trumaine Bell crushing that Florida State Seminole in the Orange Bowl. He was a little bigger guy, kind of wiry.
But he still took pride. He still took pride in blocking, and that's what receivers have to do.
Yeah, and one guy we have seen take pride in it last year, Quincy Anua, number 18, was a true freshman who didn't play a whole lot, but you can find him on YouTube absolutely decleating a Washington Husky. So he had that mentality last year, and he kind of brought it over this year. And you saw the block. He put on an option that didn't go anywhere, but it sent a message that, hey, we're here.
Right, and that's what you want. You got a guy who say, you know what, I'm going to show them that this is not Nebraska of old. This is new Nebraska, that we're going to be physical. And the play might not work, but you're going to know that somebody got hit on the play. And that was a guy I thought who burst onto the scene this year. You know, you heard a little bit about him last year, but he really came out this year and had some good catches. I mean, I thought overall he played pretty well.
Yeah, speaking of hands, Brandon Kennedy had a couple catches, but Quincy ended up with 4. What did you think? And he caught some tough balls.
Yeah, and it just shows you got big, tall, 6'4", 225-pound guy. I mean, he shows that he has the ability, and he's young. He's only going to get better. And so they just need to go ahead and utilize him the way that they can. And he's going to make some plays. You know, the one guy that I didn't see much was Kyler Reed. You know, is he hurt? What happened to him? And you just didn't hear much about him. You know, you saw, I think it was Ben Cotton, one of the Cotton boys, they caught a ball. But, you know, Kyler Reed had a lot of plays last year. You didn't see much of him this year. So I think the receiving corps has some good young guys, but they have to start by blocking. And once they block, then they're going to open up the passing game.
Yeah, Kyler Reed actually did have a catch, and he did struggle in from the people who broke the game down, that Kyler was hit and miss on blocking.
Right.
But the last guy I kind of wanted, the buzz of Springball, who I hope to be in the starting lineup next week, number 10, Jamal Turner. We saw the one pass he took from Breon Carnes, which looked like a little swing, was going to be nothing. But then he put his foot in the ground, made about 2 guys miss, went across the field for 19 yards.
To me, that's your most explosive guy on offense. You know, I know there's Taylor Martinez, but Jamal Turner, he can do so much. And they got to find ways to get the ball in his hands because he's the one guy that can make plays in traffic. And once they find ways to get him the ball in different positions, out of the backfield and the slot, even line up as a quarterback and run the old Wildcat offense, that guy's special. And you don't find too many guys like that. So if you got a guy like that, you find ways to get him the ball because he can help your offense and open up for a lot of other things. To me, he reminds me of Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
And Reggie Bush, they put Reggie Bush in the slot. He was special. I think Jamal Turner could be that guy too.
And Jamal is very unselfish as well, as he was a star quarterback in Texas, but he came up here in the spring and said, hey, just let me get on the field. But to get the ball to him, they need to start him. So that's a starting point.
I don't necessarily know if they need to start him. I think they just got to put packages in the game to where they say, okay, these are your plays, this is your package you get out there, and when he's out there, get him the ball. I know team's gonna know it, but hey, still get him the ball. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, if he makes plays, now it's gonna open things up.
Yeah.
So don't worry about whether he starts or not, because I know a lot of receivers who makes a lot of money that don't start. So once he's on the field, find ways to get him the ball.
Yeah, and speaking of making plays, there were a lot of Nebraska black shirts, the defenders, who made plays against Chattanooga, and we'll break down the black shirt performance next on Husker Talk with Tommy Frazier.